General Motors has been known for taking a single platform and making multiple different cars with it, but that is not the case with this. This full-size rear-wheel drive platform is exclusive to the Cadillac CT6. Our spotlight today is on the 2018 Cadillac CT6 3-liter twin-turbo Platinum. We're going to be showing you everything about this car, taking it for a drive, getting in the back, and letting it drive us with its super cruise control settings. We're going to go over everything you need to know if you're in the market for a full-size luxury sedan. Now, unlike the other vehicles in Cadillac's current lineup, especially the XTS, which is also a full-size front-wheel based version, this car really is streamlined. It's very low to the ground, and I actually really like the design of it. It still follows the same Cadillac design language with the curving headlights that go around the back. They're using something they call indirect fire LED for these headlights. It's a marketing term that GM likes to come up with. They always have very interesting ways to explain their technology, but they've got full LED headlighting on the front, and again, like the Cadillac Escalade we featured earlier, the headlights are in a fixed position. They're not a moving system like we find on most adaptive headlights. It's because these lights down here act as cornering lamps, which is something Cadillac's been doing for a while. At the front here, you've got your front camera. There's also the night vision infrared camera there, and your sensor for cruise control and super cruise control at the bottom, with all the other cameras and sensors up at the top, allowing you to stay in the lane and use those super cruise control features. Now, moving around the side of the car here again, unlike a lot of the other Cadillacs, this is very long, low, it's wider and bigger than the XTS. And a lot of it really has to do with their new design language and really making this car work in competing with something like the 7 Series and S-Class. We've got the Cadillac badges here on the front fenders, which is unique. And you move down the rest of the car, and everything just looks really, really good. The door handles here are illuminated, so at night you can see where your door handles are. You can grab them. There's buttons on each door to allow you to unlock from any door. So if you have kids, you can unlock this door and pull them out. The mirrors are auto folding. You just have to hold the lock button on your key fob in order to make them lock. And interestingly enough, the gas cap is on the side here. You just push it and it flips open. But we noticed with the Escalade, it was on the other side. So it's really strange. This is more along the lines of what BMW and Mercedes do. They're usually on this side of the car. So I think they just did that for this specific version, just to make it similar with the other full-size luxury cars it competes with. Now, the trunk you can pop open. It's fully automated. You don't have to worry about doing anything yourself. You just push the button again in the trunk to close it off. And actually, the trunk size is quite good for this size car. You can get a lot in there. You don't have to worry about running out of space, because really you can't put those seats flat in the back. There is a little pass-through in the center, so if you are to go skiing or maybe put some lumber in your $103,000 car, you could do it. And then the rest of the back is pretty straightforward. Again, you've got those scooping taillights here for the brakes, and then the third center-mounted high brake light is actually built in to the top of the windscreen there, which is very similar to what Audi has been doing. And the back's got the parking sensors, cameras, and a unified single reverse light on the back. But overall, I think it's a really good looking car from every angle. It's got the right size, right dimensions, and I gotta say, I really like just the way that they've gone with this. This is a very unique Cadillac when you especially compare it to something like the XTS or the CTS. It really has its own unique look, and I think it looks really fantastic when you're driving down the street, because I keep checking myself out. We see ourselves in the reflection of storefronts as we drive by. That car looks good.
Inside, we find a true luxury experience, with every surface being covered in some sort of soft material. The dashboard features 4 different textures, which might be overload for some, but you have soft leather up top with wood and carbon fiber trims and perforated leather lower down. The navigation screen is larger than we found on the Escalade and also features Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You can also hook up an external HDMI and USB sources to watch videos when parked, or allow your rear passengers to stay entertained. You can see more about that on our PRN Tech episode on watching Netflix and YouTube in your Cadillac. Sticking with the entertainment system, this features a Bose Panerai audio setup, the first vehicle to take this home theater technology and apply it to a car. 34 speakers power this phenomenal audio experience, allowing each passenger their own surround atmosphere. Speakers are located in the pop-up panoramic deck, the front headrests, and the center console. The sound is unlike anything we've experienced before. Seating is incredibly comfortable with the CT6, with space for 5, but it's really meant for 4 main seats that get all the features. Those 4 seats have the same level of comfort and all feature heat, ventilation, and massage, with plenty of different settings to adjust everything to your liking, and that includes those outboard rear seats. For the driver, a heated steering wheel keeps you warmer during the winter, and media controls on the wheel feel solid, with quirks like the cruise control button allowing you to increase by 1 kph or 5 kph depending on how hard you click. The gauge cluster provides ample data, and the excellent color heads-up display is easily the best we've used so far. There's also a night vision mode which uses an infrared camera mounted in the front grille to help with nighttime driving. The camera can be cleaned with a special washer nozzle and only works when the sky is dark enough. In the back, passengers can adjust the recline position of their seats and operate the rear power sunshade, power panoramic moonroof, or use the side window sunshades. The rear entertainment has dual 720p screens with Blu-ray, wireless headphones, and HDMI input. Flip down the center armrest for cup holders and controls for the seats.
Now the real meat and potatoes of this car is this top trim, the 3-liter twin-turbo V6, and it produces 404 horsepower. Now I know it is lower than something like the 750 BMW, but it does produce enough power to get you up to speed and get you going, and still pretty fuel efficient. I think we've averaged about 9 liters per 100, which truthfully has been a pretty good mix between highway and city driving. So we've had a good experience being able to use both, get a blended average here. We're just under 10 when it comes to our fuel economy. So it does help having those twin turbos, and you can actually have the turbo spool on your screen here, so you can always see whether or not it's being used. So for example, we're going around this corner here, we're not going too quick, you're just maybe in the city, and the turbos aren't being used at all. It says it's at 0 kPa. But if we drop it down, almost instantly those turbos kick in and you get up to speed pretty quick. So it really does help having that twin turbo setup over the traditional V6 or a V8. Now some people might not like having a forced induction engine. Some might prefer having a naturally aspirated one, but overall those turbos work really well, and it really does get the power down quickly. And truthfully, I mean, everybody else is now doing turbo and twin turbo setups for their vehicles, so it's not uncommon for Cadillac to be doing this now with the CT6. And I really do like it. The power really does get down there quick. My only thing is the transmission. It's an 8-speed transmission. Sometimes it's a little hard for it to find the gear, but you do have flappy paddles, so if you wanted to, you could throw it down yourself and do the shifting, and it actually is pretty quick. I found that it isn't, like a dual clutch automated quick kind of thing, but it still is pretty quick given the fact that it is a traditional 8-speed automatic transmission. It gets the job done, and the fact that you've got the paddles here allows you to shift yourself, which can be fun if you're driving it yourself, and maybe not so much if you're being driven around in the back seat. The ride is actually very smooth. We do feel a little bit of the bumps here and there, but the car really does feel like it rides a lot lower than some of the other full-size luxury cars that we've driven, or any sedans that we've driven. Really do feel like you're more in a sports car than you are in a sedan. The seats, though, still have a good position. My legs are, at a pretty normal angle here to be able to drive, but I just feel like I'm sitting much lower, and when we drive by other cars, they just end up being a little bit taller than us. So little things like that you might want to get used to, or you might want to be aware of if you are thinking about buying a car like this. Now this vehicle, just like the Escalade, has GM's magnetic ride system. The way we found that it works is when you go around a corner, it helps you to stay level, but it also helps with bumps and whatnot as you're going on the uneven roads here in Quebec. With this vehicle, something that you won't find on any other Cadillac, and you aren't going to be able to find on something like the BMW 7 Series, is semi-autonomous driving. Cadillac calls it super cruise control, and we're going to go and take a look at it right now. We here at Test Drive obviously like to drive cars, but sometimes it's really fun to try out new tech that will drive yourself for you. We're driving the 2018 Cadillac CT6, and this car at the Platinum trim has something that Cadillac is calling super cruise control, which allows you basically to take your hands off the wheel and it will do the steering for you. It'll use the radar cruise control also to keep the distance between you and the person in front of you, and all you have to do is just click the little button and the car takes over. As you see, the steering wheel here turns green, has a green LED that runs along the top. And there's actually 3 infrared sensors that are built into the driver's compartment here, 2 on the steering wheel and then another one in the center on the steering stack to make sure that you're actually paying attention. It's not meant to be an autonomous, self-driving, you can sit in the back kind of thing. You are still meant to be paying attention, because if you aren't looking forward, if those sensors don't detect that you're still doing your job as a driver, it'll start to flash at you and say, hey, pay attention. And then if you really aren't, it will force you to take the car back over. But it works really well on the highways. We've used it actually quite a bit over the last few days here, and it's really fun. It's actually kind of nice because I could just sit back, put my arms up, use the massage feature here, and just kind of relax and still pay attention to the road. It's not meant to take your phone and start texting or open up the newspaper or work on your next book. You are still meant to be driving, but it is kind of nice. You can have a conversation with your passenger or take a look back and see who's behind you and have a quick chat with them and still pay attention to the road, but you don't have to worry as much anymore. It's a technology that's still in development. Obviously, it isn't 100% perfect. It doesn't work on regular roads, and we did actually try in stop-and-go traffic, and it just didn't work, period. But on a highway like this, we're doing 110, 115, and it keeps the speed obviously very well, and it actually keeps itself in the middle of the road quite well. Like I said, my hands are off. I don't have to worry about holding the wheel. So it really is good if you're on a long trip, if you do a lot of highway commuting, or maybe you're on a road trip going back and forth from something like Montreal to Toronto, then it's great. You can take your hands off and you can still sit here and pay attention. But if your hands get a little tired having to sit on the wheel all the time, it does give you that option to be able to not have to do it. And you don't have to use it either. I mean, it's a $5,000 upgrade on the lower trim models for the CT6. It comes included at the Platinum trim here. But you don't have to use it. Nobody's going to force you to use it if you don't want to. But I think it's really cool. As you can see, we're going around the corner. I'm not touching this wheel at all, and it's going for me. And at first, it can be a little nerve-wracking. It's kind of like somebody posted on Twitter. It's kind of like teaching your kid how to drive, your teenager how to drive the first time. You're always trying to grab the wheel from them, but if you actually just let it do its thing, it will do a pretty good job. And I have to say, it really does do a great job. It's been pretty fun on the highways here. Now, the one thing that you can't do, unlike the Tesla autopilot system, it isn't meant to be autonomous. So if you want to change lanes, you have to actually, I can change the lane right now and take over, and the light will start flashing blue, and basically you have to reset it up. So you can't change lanes with it, and it's also very picky about when it'll work. A little steering wheel icon will show up on the instrument cluster, which means it'll take over, and then if there's a problem, it will tell you that you need to take control again, either by flashing red and rumbling your seat, or as I said, if you've kind of taken control to change lanes, then you'll have to re-enable the system. But it works really well. It works in stop and go-ish traffic. If you have to slow down for something, it will. But if you're actually completely stopped, it did work, but it doesn't keep the same distance that you would in stop and go. It still keeps a 3 or 4 car length distance between you and the car in front, which might be an annoyance for anybody behind you. But the tech is certainly very interesting. It's a lot of fun. It's with that party trick, just like with the Buick Enclave that we featured. The rear view camera was its party trick, while party trick number 2 in the Cadillac here, you can show all your friends once you drop $103,000 on this car, hey look, no hands. So it's a lot of fun, and it's really interesting to finally be able to try it out, because we see the commercials for it, and I gotta say, it works really well. It's keeping good distance behind this little Toyota, and I'm having a good conversation with you, and it's doing its thing, I'm doing my thing. So almost autonomous driving available with the Cadillac CT6. The future is now.
There's a ton of tech, luxury, and features going on with the top trim of the CT6. So many that I'm sure we missed a lot of what's available on this car, so I'll try to show them as much as possible during this summary. The Cadillac CT6 is a full-size luxury car, despite a lot of people thinking it should compete with the 5 Series or E-Class rather than against the flagships, but they're wrong. The CT6 has a unique approach to luxury and gets to the same flagship designation with a different route. Interior and exterior design will always be subjective, but we really loved the way this car looks. We had plenty of people checking it out during our drives, and I always looked back at it when we parked. The interior quality trim feels great, giving the driver and passengers the most amount of comfort with features like ventilated seats and many massaging options. We also liked the larger Cadillac Q infotainment system. While the navigation isn't our favorite, the rest of the system worked very well, and Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are big pluses, considering BMW plans on charging customers as a recurring subscription fee for that service. The rear entertainment system worked really well, and the 4G LTE data connection allows you to add more than just physical media to your rear seat entertainment arsenal. The ride and performance of this vehicle was also superb, living up to everything you could expect from a full-size luxury sedan. Considering this vehicle costs about $100,000 Canadian, you do get a lot of car for that price. It's one of the most affordable full-size luxury sedans when fully loaded, considering the Cadillac XTS is a front-wheel based vehicle, and the jury is still out on whether or not we should be comparing the Genesis G90 with the premium or luxury cars. Now, we'd like to see where Cadillac takes this car and their brand in general. A long wheelbase version is certainly lacking, and something the Germans offer on all their flagships. We'd like to see an easy way to clean the rear view camera, considering the assembly is the same part found on the Escalade, but the washer fluid isn't routed to the back of the car. Other luxury flagships use motorized side window sunshades and also offer plenty of interior design choices, whereas the Cadillac comes with black or beige seating and only 9 paint options, most of which are just various shades of silver or black. The single V6 engine option also might put some buyers off, as many still believe that a V8 is the true requirement for a full-size luxury sedan. The CT6 does come as a plug-in hybrid model with rear-wheel drive only, but offers 2 different interior leather options on top of black and a deep amethyst metallic paint that looks outstanding in photos, along with 5 other paint colors. With that said, this has been one of the most surprisingly enjoyable cars that we've driven in a long while, and one that we've continued to think about weeks after handing back the keys. We hope to see a lot more from Cadillac and the CT6, and we're excited to see where they end up taking this car. It might not be the best full-size luxury car on the market, but it sure is compelling. Thanks for watching this episode of Test Drive Spotlight on the 2018 Cadillac CT6 3-liter twin-turbo Platinum. As always, your support makes this show possible, so if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up and share this video on social media sites like Facebook, Reddit, or Twitter. If you have any questions about this car, please leave a comment below and we'll do our best to answer it. You can follow Perpetual Radio on Facebook or Twitter at Perpetual Radio, or follow me directly on Twitter or Instagram at Niall Livesey. Until next time, take care.